Coming up on this episode of DL Weekly, Toontown is getting ready to welcome guests again. Tiana is taking over some of New Orleans Square.
2 foodie guides have been released. Lots of construction. We finish our conversation with Skipper Freddy and more. DL Weekly starts now.
Ah, buenos dias, señorita. My siestas are getting shorter and shorter. Oh, look at all the people listening. Welcome to DL Weekly's Enchanted Podcast. Hey, Tag and Teresa, mi amigos. Pay attention, it's showtime.
Hello and welcome to this episode of DL Weekly for the week of January 18th, 2023. I'm Tag Bushman.
And I'm Teresa Urban. Thank you to Rebecca W. and Megan G. for increasing your support on our Patreon. Our supporters get some pretty fun perks like DL Weekly swag, bonus content, and access to our Discord community. A special thank you to Bill S., Shelby R., Laura R., and Audrey R. for your continued support. Just a heads up for all of our current supporters, we do have a survey going on. We want to hear from you. Let us know things that you like about DL Weekly, things that you don't like, things that you have suggestions on. This goes for, we talk about all sorts of things, all of the different levels of support. There's talk about what perks we're offering, your thoughts on those, as well as some podcast specific ones. So we would love to hear from you. So if you haven't, please go and fill that out. We are giving away a couple of fancy DL Weekly enamel pins to 3 lucky people. So if you're interested, please let us know. And if you would like some more Disney magic in your day, head on over to dlweekly.net/support to join the community.
Yes, on the Patreon is where the link to the survey is. Just to be clear, it's for our Patreon supporters at this point. Well, if you want to support the show and not pay monthly for it through Patreon, and you just want to do it as a one-time payment, well, you can buy us a churro. Head on over to dlweekly.net/churro to support us with a churro. Thank you to all of our listeners who have supported the show in any way possible.
Now let's get to the news. Well, we're getting closer and closer to the Disney 100 celebration, and with that, the partial opening of Toontown and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. A new Toontown sign has been installed at the entrance to the land ahead of its opening later this month. The Disney Parks TikTok account shared the installation online.
I was very happy to see this show up when I was writing the script today, because I did not expect this to show up right away.
This was a last-minute add to the news. I told Tag, I'm like, okay, everything's done. And then like 2 hours later, I'm like, just kidding.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
Yeah. I mean, it looks similar to the old sign in a lot of ways.
It's very much the same sign, except for the word Toontown. So the sign previously, for those of you that may not remember, said, "Welcome to Mickey's Toontown." Toontown was this like fun black lettering, and I want to say it was like blue outlined white letters. Well, now each letter is themed to a toon. So we've got Mickey Mouse, we've got Donald, Goofy, Daisy, Chip and Dale, Minnie. Super fun.
I just feel like it's making it feel closer and closer to Toontown opening and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Now,
and Pluto. Sorry, I forgot Pluto.
You've ridden with me Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in Hollywood Studios.
Yes.
Is this going to be one of those attractions that you don't watch the ride through of, or are you going to watch the ride through of it?
Well, it's the same. So I don't feel like
the queue is different, though.
The queue is different, but the ride track and the ride itself is the same. So basically, am I trying to stay spoiler free on the queue?
Sure.
I don't know if I am or not, because one of the cool things that is different about our version is specifically the queue. And basically there's all sorts of like props and possible Easter eggs. And so I think there's lots of layers to it. So I think seeing it in a video
isn't going to spoil it for you.
Isn't going to spoil it, because the whole intent of queues, right, is to be able to like occupy you while you're sitting there waiting, so you're not bored. So I feel like there's got to be lots of layers, lots of details. So I think it's just a different experience in person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, unless somebody does like very in-depth coverage of the queue, a lot of times it's just kind of like quick little zip, 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 here's the queue.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. I, of course, am going to spoil it for myself because I always do that. Well, Splash Mountain hasn't quite begun its transformation into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, but Disney is already working on adding more Princess and the Frog to Disneyland. Tiana's Palace will be the name of the location currently known as the French Market. The menu will expand on many of the current favorites, explore seasonal flavors, and offer some New Orleans classics. To begin the transformation, the French Market and the Mint Julep Bar will be closing on February 17th to reopen later in 2023.
I'm going to be real honest. I have mixed feelings about this.
Okay.
I love Princess and the Frog. I love the music. I love the animation. I love the characters. Love it. One of my favorite Disney movies by far. Very excited about the re-theme. Really looking forward to Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I am upset that we don't have any more information as to when we can expect the transformation to begin in Disneyland, because I'm ready for it. I'm here for it. We said our goodbyes to Splash. We are moving on.
Well,
I am here for Tiana and her friends. I'm here for it. I'm not as, initially I was excited about this until I thought about it.
Okay.
And this feels too easy to be it doesn't feel like a good re-theme. And it's not that it's not like this location needs a boost. The French market, very, very popular.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing too, so I'm not understanding. I don't see the why here. To me, it feels like an inexpensive way to just bring more IP into the park, whereas this doesn't necessarily need IP. And the other thing that makes me sad is I feel like if you're going to do, for those of you that have seen the movie, have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. So Tiana's Palace is this beautiful upscale restaurant.
Isn't it in a warehouse though?
It's an old sugar mill.
Yeah, okay.
And she works, right? She puts her heart and soul into this place. Beautiful upscale experience that they portray in the movie. And what they're bringing to the parks is just kind of a new paint job and quick service. I think Tiana's Palace, if you're going to do this, it would have been, maybe you would have rethemed, what is the fancy place next to it? Don't retheme the Blue Bayou. Leave the Blue Bayou alone. I was expecting something
Cafe Orleans?
Yeah. I could have gotten on board with you redoing Cafe Orleans. However, visually it didn't quite look right. Yes, the French market visually looks more like Tiana's Palace from the movie. But I just feel like they had a missed opportunity and they could have brought another seated dining table service experience to the park. Now, I'm not saying I want this, but if you're going to re-theme a restaurant, I'm all for that. But to me, the current theme and the new theme are very similar, almost the same thing. If they announced that they were re-theming the Hungry Bear, that would have made sense to me, because right now the Hungry Bear's got a completely different style of menu, a completely different decor. So doing that would have made more sense to me than what they're doing with French Market, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I'm just mixed on it. I'm not super excited. I feel like it doesn't make sense, and I feel like I had higher expectations and they could have done something super cool with Tiana's Palace, with an actual version of Tiana's Palace, if it would have been more like the movie version. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I said a lot.
You did. First thing, did you see the video that Flander put on Instagram that shows that the stage here actually is just like Tomorrowland, and actually there is a underground thing that they haven't used in years that he is hoping that they reinvigorate with all of this and actually add some music and stuff that pops out of it. He had a clip of people like a tour guide walking down there in some old footage from a few years ago. For me, I have not eaten for sure at Cafe Orleans, for a full meal.
Really?
Or, let me finish the sentence, or French Market for a while. It's been, I probably last ate this in the early 2000s, and I keep wanting to eat there, but for some reason, all of these other things that have been changed over the last few years, we go eat for. So, we'll go eat at Tropical Hideaway, or we'll go eat.
We've been on a big fried chicken kick
from that
Plaza
too.
Inn.
But I mean, we just never, we've also been eating. We've eaten at Docking Bay 7. We're just eating a lot of different places. Mm-hmm. So one of these trips, we should make a point to try to eat at one of these places.
Yeah.
I'd like to eat at Cafe Orleans. Again, that's a reservation thing, though. I think that's what stops us from there. But I'd love to go eat there. Now, you said all the stuff I would say about this. I'm looking at a street view of the restaurant now. It always is busy. It's always a busy place. Hungry Bear. I'm totally with you. I think they're missing a opportunity here to redo what's there, what little bit is left of Critter Country into something else. You could retheme that to be very Bayou. So there's New Orleans, and then there's the Bayou, which is more like woodsy, I guess I would say. Like you've got the city, New Orleans, and then
Sure.
you've got the bayou, which is more rural. So you could have Tiana's Bayou Adventure. You could theme all the shops and everything there. Winnie the Pooh, we'll have to figure out what to do with that, but make it bayou and then convert Hungry Bear into her restaurant, because then you're right at the river,
Yeah,
which
that's the
seems
other
like
thing,
it also
too.
makes a lot more sense. I
Yeah.
mean, this is sort of kind of near the river, but not like on the river. So I just think that thematically those things would then be tied together there.
Yeah.
Where right now I feel bad for the Haunted Mansion, because the Haunted Mansion is going to be like squeezed between
It's
Tiana's
sandwiched.
Palace and the Bayou Adventure. And it's like, people are going to be like, well, that's Princess and the Frog,
Well, but-
and that's Princess and the Frog, but what is this?
Well, and then to kind of add to that, we also have Eudora's shop, which is over by the Blue Bayou.
Well, yes.
So I feel like it's interesting to me that Tiana's been kind of sprinkled throughout the land, whereas usually it's kind of they try and keep the IPs together. So
Yeah.
like for example, Winnie the Pooh, right next to it is Pooh's Corner.
Right.
They don't have Pooh's Corner like in Fantasyland.
Right.
So
But do you think, so here's the next thing. Do you really think that, I know the store just opened not that long ago, but do you think that store is going to like hang out? It doesn't seem like
I
a
don't
store
know.
that's going to hang out for a while.
and it's I don't know. I
Because
mean,
when we were
it's
there,
an
like nobody
interesting-
was in there.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting store, but yeah, I don't know. But to kind of build on your thought process with if you were to make Critter Country the Bayou, that doesn't mean Winnie the Pooh and his friends do not need to be evicted. I feel like they still would fit because like woodland bayou ish.
Yeah, but the bayou's more like swampy.
Okay,
And
well then they're
Winnie the Pooh's not
they're
really...
the forest next to the bayou.
Okay.
But you could have had, Pooh's Corner's got the treats. I don't remember what the other part of that building is called as far as what the shops part, because there's like the
Sure.
treat place and then the merchandise place. But then you also have I just remembered the merchandise place that's kind of next to Splash Mountain that is themed to Splash.
But
you
that
could
could
almost,
be themed to like...
but you could almost move Eudora's over there is what I'm saying.
It's Eudora's.
Eudora's is the boutique
Gotcha.
that's over the new like kind of
What's the crocodile?
Louis.
Louis. Louis could be like a little shop for Louis, because it's right there.
But see, I don't want. And
It's
it
still
doesn't.
Pooh Corner.
Oh,
All of it's
the
Pooh
whole
Corner.
thing's Pooh Corner. Okay, so then maybe leave Pooh Corner alone, and then move Eudora's, which I don't know if they'll do that. Move Eudora's little boutique over to. It's like a little hat shop. That could be.
I think it's called the Briar Patch.
Oh, yes, I think you're right. So like that could be where Eudora's is. It right now it just feels like we're spread pretty far out, so that feels a little weird to me. I'm not saying I want them to do this necessarily, but that just would have made more sense to me, is having like a themed area versus kind of having it sprinkled throughout the land. And I do agree, the only downside to that would be now you've got Tiana's place, which is New Orleans themed dishes, plus you have the 3 that we currently have in New Orleans Square. So that's almost like the same. That's 3 of the same, or 4 restaurants now that have the same type of food. So I understand not adding a brand new location,
Well,
but I don't know.
So I know we've gone on about this for a while, but I feel like Disneyland has gotten a lot better with a lot of food, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The thing that I think Disneyland needs to work on is I think they need better burgers, because
Oh yeah.
Galactic
100%.
Grill and Hungry Bear, they don't look that great to me. I mean, James, you ate the burgers there. Did you like the burgers in Disneyland? Are you okay? So they
I'm
were
gonna
that good that he doesn't
yeah.
remember.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think the burgers are one of the few like typical theme park, like what you would expect to get at a theme park.
I guess my thought for Hungry Bear, that's not directly related to this, is just I want more from Hungry Bear, because it's such a large seating area.
They do have great seasonal items.
Right, but I mean, I want them to have a really strong menu in general, and I wish they could just pump the food out faster, because there's so much seating there that I don't... Have we ever been there when it's been like full? I don't think we've ever had a problem finding a seat.
Once. I was
Even
there
downstairs?
Yeah, once I was there with my family, and it was hard to find seating back during the wedding, but that was also like spring break time. Anyways, we've got super off track.
Well, no,
so.
but like I think it was all related to all of that. So, but yeah.
So we have thoughts, but I'm excited about the idea. I'm not excited about how they're doing
The
it.
execution.
Yeah. Well, just after last week's podcast, Disney posted the foodie guide to Lunar New Year, and it's looking good. It's looking fun.
I
What are
will
some of your
say
favorites?
the sad thing is that to get to our stuff, you have to scroll past like Hong Kong,
Oh my gosh, and
Disneyland.
they're beautiful.
And yeah, all the other like Shanghai. And I will tell you, the food, oh my goodness. Like I know this isn't Disneyland, but man, what is this? The Donald Duck, what is this?
That's not the Donald Duck tumbler.
What is this? The Mickey
I don't know.
pork jelly? Is that what that is?
I don't know.
It looks really, really, really good though. And
There's
I
some
want
yummy,
oh my goodness,
yummy and
all
cute.
this food looks great.
This is Disneyland now.
Oh,
so,
good. We're finally at Disneyland.
Yeah, so you're at Disneyland.
I don't know. What you looked at it before I did.
So, okay. I know I was just negative about Tiana's palace, and I'm sorry, but I gotta get this out here. There's a lot of the thing that I was disappointed with. There's a lot of fusion dishes that are included here, and I applaud the creativity. However, I'm disappointed that they're being creative during a festival that's dedicated to different cultures. Because what I love about these festivals, this one and Festival of the Holidays, is that they're highlighting different cuisine from different areas, things that my Midwest self, may not always have access to be able to try and enjoy. And I can try it in these like small little like sample sizes, so I can try lots of them. So to me, that's really exciting. So there's something on here. I'm not going to lie, it looks delicious. There's a quesabira egg roll that's available at the Lucky 8 Lantern. That sounds delicious. I love quesabira tacos. I love the quesabira sandwich that has actually returned now again. It's back at Jolly Holiday. Delicious. However, for a festival food booth, I don't want this. You want like this more authentic fusion dish there. I would have been okay if this would have been the festival offering at the Cocina Cucamonga. Like if the traditional Mexican restaurant is getting in on this festival, that would have the fusion of those two cuisines would have made sense coming from that location. It doesn't make sense for me when it comes from one of the dedicated festival booths. I want things that are more authentic, I guess would be a good way of saying it. Yeah. But with saying that, there are things that I am definitely excited about.
So I just saw this Mandarin mousse cake that looks... I just want to eat it. I mean, it looks beautiful, but it's layers of Mandarin mousse with vanilla cake and clementine compote finished with white chocolate crunch balls and a tangerine glaze. These look gorgeous. I can taste I'm imagining what this tastes like, and I want one so bad.
Yes, there's a lot of delicious sounding drinks that are on here.
I see there's a foam iced coffee. I don't know if that's close to anything that you want.
There is. I don't...
Right here.
Okay, where's the iced coffee? Oh, yes. There's a coconut lavender matcha foamed iced coffee. That sounds... I mean, you know me. It's an iced coffee. It's a cold brew. I've got to try it. Yum, yum, yum. But some other things... We'll be real honest. Neither of us have gotten to experience this particular festival just yet. So none of these things are things that we have been able to experience and try for ourselves. But I gotta say, the Longevity Noodle Company, the garlic noodles have been on the menu for years now. So because it has been part of for the first time that they announced, that we talked about this dish, I was kind of like, garlic noodles?
I've been wanting to try this.
I know, but my first gut reaction to this was,
how boring.
Garlic noodles, I don't know, I could do that at home. I'm expecting a little bit more, but there is something about the garlic noodles because they keep coming back year after year. I also think these spicy pork don don noodles that are also at the Longevity Noodle Company look yummy.
Is that what this is? Because this looks like spaghetti with meat sauce.
It is pan-fried. Let me tell you. It is pan-fried noodles with ground pork and a spicy chili sauce.
Okay, see, the spicy is where you lose me.
You wouldn't do it. And then also there's a raspberry oat milk tea at that cart, too. That sounds delicious.
I have a weird obsession with bao, by the way, because I love the bao buns that they had at the thing. So now I've got pepperoni pizza bao bun served with marinara, which sounds interesting.
Which, to me, we're going to pause. You can have that at this festival, just not at a festival booth. I want them to have this be like the pizza place. Oh. That's the thing you can pick up from the pizza place. I want these fusion dishes out of the food booths. Does that make sense?
Yes. I totally understand what you're saying. The char suey barbecue pork bao with pickled red onion and jalapeno also kind of sounds good. The only thing that's weird to me is I'm looking at the picture they have here, and that bao bun is so white. It looks like it's an uncooked, doughy bun.
Oh.
I know it's not.
Right.
But that's kind of the idea.
thing.
And this thing, what is this, Teresa?
So that's the milk tea taro cheesecake, which is available over at Boardwalk Pizza and Pasta. So it's a milk tea cheesecake topped with a taro mousse. It looks
very good.
It looks good. I'm also excited over at Lucky Fortune Cookery. There is mango sticky rice, which is taro and coconut sticky rice with mango gel, toasted coconut, and fresh mango. It looks really beautiful as well.
I am looking at pictures right now of pot stickers and dumplings, and
over at
man,
Lamplight.
I want some of all of it. What is this?
You know what
the green tea horchata.
You know what I'm very excited about is Paradise Garden Grill has been killing it during these special food events. So for those of you that don't know, Paradise Garden Grill can be found in the back corner of Paradise Park.
It's by Goofy Sky School.
Yep, back behind, by where there's like the restrooms back there, all that. There's a stage right in front of it too. It's a great area. But what I like is instead of it just being a restaurant that's got the same menu day in and day out, it seems to only be open when we've got these special festivals going on, and the menu reflects whatever festival is going on at that time. So we just had, honest to God, the best things that we had at the Festival of the Holidays, for me, came from that restaurant. I enjoyed the food that we had there more than I liked the stuff in the booths. And just reading the menus, this is the menu I'm the most excited about.
What food thing was happening that we had that really good? We had the cake there, and we had the...
Oh, that's right. We had the cocoa
That was all
cake.
back there too.
Mm-hmm.
And we had
Was
that
that,
sandwich, the torta.
The torta was back there.
It was so
it was
good.
very good. Very good. But the thing that sounds, one of the things that really sticks out to me, probably the most, is there's a tiger milk tea with boba bam brown sugar boba in it. Yum. It just looks so, so good.
The white chocolate apple bread pudding at Pacific Worth Cafe is Granny Smith apples with white chocolate and creme anglaise with whipped topping. That looks really good. Okay, I know, Teresa. I know. You make, because I say, oh, I'm not that interested in the food, and then I sit here and talk about the food.
Here you are.
Shrimp lo mein also looks pretty good because I'm a sucker for shrimp lo mein. But
there's also a seasonal churro that it sounds really yummy to me.
What is it?
Over at Goofy's Churro Cart, there's an almond cookie churro, which is coated in cookie crumble and topped with an almond icing.
Oh, that would be good.
It looks really yummy. It sounds really good.
Oh, these Grand Californian, there's like these little bunnies.
I thought this was fun. The turkey leg cart is getting in on the fun.
Oh, Lord.
You can get a teriyaki turkey leg.
I just don't understand the turkey leg thing.
Turkey legs,
just not my
they're
thing.
not my thing either, but they have a following. That's for sure.
All right. Well,
So, foodie guide number 1.
yeah.
check.
Well, not only did Disney post the foodie guide for Lunar New Year, but the foodie guide to the Disney 100 celebration at Disneyland. You got a better chance to look at this than I did, because the only thing I saw, for some reason, the big thing they're pushing this time is lemon.
There's lots of lemon.
Yeah, but I will tell you that, where was it? This platinum trifle. Layers of chocolate cookie crumbles, cheesecake, cherry compote, chocolate cookie mousse, and a creme fraiche chantilly with crunch pearls and chocolate piece. Is that what this is?
No, that's not what it is. You're looking at Mr. Banks' shortbread
Oh,
tart.
that's it. Caramel and chocolate ganache in a shortbread tart, purple-colored white chocolate mousse, sea salt, edible silver stars, and silver crunch pearls.
I'm sorry. I love that this is themed to Mary Poppins. It's Mr. Banks from...
Yeah.
I just love that.
And it's a jolly holiday.
And it's at the Jolly Holiday.
Are these foods, from your understanding, are these foods hanging out through the
I believe this
whole
is
100?
here for the full 100 celebration.
So we might get to eat
So
this.
the one thing that you will notice when you pull up this foodie guide, it's not like the holiday or the Halloween time or even like the Lunar New Year or Food and Wine Fest. It's not like those menus where it's just tons and tons of stuff. You're going to see a lot of the same items available at multiple locations. So one of those things that's available at multiple locations is a lemon tea cake. It's lemon curd, lemon zest glaze, and a fresh slice of lemon. It looks scrumptious. There's also an old-fashioned cream soda that's available at a couple of places, which is Sprite, cherry, and blue cotton candy gourmet syrup served frozen and topped with whipped cream and purple pixie dust.
That sounds good.
A lemon chiffon pie, which is classic lemon chiffon pie with graham cracker crust topped with vanilla chantilly cream. But yeah, lots of these things I thought was interesting. you could get at multiple locations. Whereas normally when we get a foodie guide, it's like, oh, you want the butterscotch soda? You have to go to this one spot. I mean, maybe the super popular items, for example, gingerbread, like the little Mickey gingerbreads, they'll put at multiple locations because they're so popular. But I think since these are here for such a long period of time, they have them kind of spread out a little more.
The one thing, I love purple. There's a lot of purple with this celebration, which makes me very happy. The sparkling grape. It is Sprite with grape syrup topped with a candy strip. Now, the candy strip I'm not that excited about. It looks like it's one of those sweet and sour, like fruit roll-up almost kind of things. But, man, this Sprite with grape syrup looks so good, and I would like to try one. Man, this churro's got these pearls that I don't like. But anyway.
But no, are they chocolate or are they sprinkles? Do you not like the ones that are chocolate?
I don't like the pearls because they're always too hard.
Oh. See,
I only like the long, like tubular sprinkles.
But I'm saying those may not be sprinkles. They may be. Do you know what a six slit is?
No.
So do you know what an M&M is?
Yes.
Think of it. Think of that. That
yeah,
might
but they're
be
still
like a tiny...
hard. I like soft.
Oh.
So like the longer sprinkles that they're kind of soft.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Anything like this, even the like granulated sugar, I don't like that texture of like because it's
Gotcha. Well, there's tons of things, and like I said, the thing that's interesting and fun and cool is that it's the same items, but you can get it multiple places, so you don't have to worry about like being in the right place at the right time and hoping that they don't run out, that sort of thing. Lots of opportunities to be able to try this stuff. Here's that trifle that you were looking at.
Oh, that looks good too, though.
But yeah, for like just for an example, I'm just scrolling through what's available at Disney California Adventure. Well, that lemon chiffon pie, which I just told you about, that was available at least at Hungry Bear in Disneyland, if not other places, is available at the Boardwalk Pizza and Pasta. It's also available at Flo's V8 Cafe, and it's available like at 2 to 3 locations per park. I think that's really cool that they're doing that.
I have some reservations because for the last food thing for the holidays, I had the special from Alien Pizza Planet that was the charcuterie board pizza, which I thought was really good. Mm-hmm. This I love French onion dip, by the way. The French onion dip pizza, which is mozzarella Gruyere, caramelized onion, and sliced roast beef served with a side of beef au jus. Usually the pictures they take make it look very appetizing. This does not look that appetizing, but I might try it. It just looks a little iffy. That's all.
Ooh, there's also this celebration cake that I forgot to talk about before. It's pecan brownie, chocolate truffle mousse, red berries, and milk chocolate mousse glazed with chocolate ganache and topped with a star. I would need a big old glass of water because that sounds very decadent and very rich.
Decadent. Look at you using the fancy words.
But yeah, lots of stuff. The other thing that's interesting too, tons of places that have the Disney 100 Thermo Tumbler, the Disney 100 Travel Tumbler, because there's 2 different tumblers available for this fest. There's a Disney 100 Mickey Mouse Sipper, a Disney 100 Platinum Mickey Mouse Balloon Bucket. I've seen photos of that. It's very pretty. There's also a Disney 100 Poison Apple Mug. That's cool because it's like a shiny purple apple with the platinum poison dripping on it. And of course, we've already talked about the Disney 100 Magic Key refillable popcorn bucket and just the regular Disney 100 popcorn bucket. There's also a Disney 100 Star Glow Cube and a Disney 100 Mickey Mouse straw clip. He's like hanging on a balloon. Isn't it cute?
Can I take us off topic for 1 second?
No, we never go off topic.
So we were at our friend's house and their kid was watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And it dawned on me, this is the most ridiculous random thought. Like, how sometimes you're just kind of spacing out and you have a random thought. All of the stuff that was around Mickey was Mickey shaped. I'm like, that's kind of egocentrical of Mickey Mouse to have everything Mickey shaped around him. Is that interesting? I don't know. It's just something silly that I came along. Anyway.
Well, along with food for the Lunar New Year festival, there is also some new merchandise. Among the options are a Lunar New Year Loungefly bag and a Loungefly wallet, sweatshirt, stationery sets, and more. That, and there's a ton of other merchandise that can be seen in the link to our show notes. I was most excited about the Lunar New Year stuff myself.
Oh, really? Because I was scrolling through it. I'm like, why are we not talking about this other stuff? Because there's just so many new merchandise things that were listed here. I did see, let me see if I can find it. There's a very long article linked in our show notes that has like a million items on it.
And tons. Are you talking about the Retro Disneyland t-shirt?
The Big Thunder Mountain Railroad t-shirt.
Yes.
I need this, but I've also made...
I thought you were going to get excited about the happiest place on Earth, Disneyland.
I mean, that one's not too bad either, but This one. And
that's the one I thought you were going to get excited about. Is the vintage Disneyland set.
Big Thunder. Because the last time they had a Big Thunder t-shirt, I didn't jump on it and it went away. And I was very sad about that. But I really like this. But I've made a commitment to myself. I have too many Disney shirts now. So if I buy another one, I have to retire an old one. So that's going to be challenging.
That is challenging. Okay, I'm still scrolling to get to the...
I also laughed because there was a whole section here in the middle that had this new, like, Mickey thing with Disneyland.
It's older.
But they kind of, like, I feel like they just went on some place where you buy different shirts and they're like, put it on that, put it on that, put it on that.
He's everywhere. So, for the Lunar New Year merch, this backpack, I don't know. The color combination is doing it for me. So it's a black backpack. It has a gold handle on top. The front pocket, it looks like a red envelope. And then you've got Judy Hopps on there because it's the year of the rabbit. And then a bunch of different like lanterns. It looks like there's some fireworks going off. It's just, I love the color pop so much on this bag. The Loungefly wallet features the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. The sweatshirt, the new Lunar New Year sweatshirt, features Judy Hopps again. It was one of those things I didn't realize how many different rabbits we have in the Disney universe until I was seeing all of them featured in different ways. There's a Thumper long sleeve t-shirt as well. He's so cute. The Lunar New Year stationery set. This was cool to me because do you know where these rabbits are from? The ones that are in the boots here?
They look like they're from
Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, no, that's not what
it's when she's dancing with her woodland friends when they find the prince's like cape and boots and the two rabbits go in there. I'm like, what?
That's a deep cut.
I love it. I love it though. And then we also have a Thumper Lunar New Year necklace.
Love Thumper, by the way.
I really liked how they incorporated how they were able to incorporate multiple characters and the fact that they have uncredited rabbits from Sleeping Beauty was just super cool to me.
Did you see this Coco puzzle?
Yes, it's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. Now, something I've wanted for artwork in my house for a long time is something really colorful with a pop of color.
You go.
This might be it because right now I've got the stretching room puzzle in our living room, but I might have to add this to the collection. I'm just looking through the rest of the stuff here. Oh, look, you got another rabbit mug.
There's a jacket, there's the mugs, there's the pins. Oh, yeah, and Oswald. That was the other thing I thought was really exciting was we have an Oswald pin. I really like the ears. Really, really like the ears.
I kind of like this 2023 year of the rabbit t-shirt.
There's yet another Disney rabbit. I'm excited.
Oh my goodness, there's so many. There's too much on this page that it's just tons and tons and tons of merchandise. Goodness gracious. Somebody had their work cut out for them on that one. Well, last Thursday, Anaheim Ducks Day took over Hollywoodland in Disney California Adventure with a lot of events. A cavalcade, player meet and greets, and fan zone were all available to Ducks fans. Maxwell Simkins from the Disney Plus show The Mighty Ducks Game Changers appeared with the team. There was some exclusive merchandise that sold out pretty quickly. Some of the activities spilled out into downtown Disney where there was a DJ, appearances of the Ducks mascot Wild Wing, and a hockey skill shot activity.
I thought this was fun. Hockey is not my thing, but clearly very popular because it's the local Anaheim Ducks celebrating at the local Anaheim Park. I think it's a fun matchup and a fun thing that they do. They've been doing this for years.
Didn't they? Disney used to own Duck, because it was the Mighty Ducks.
Yep. There is a connection there, but I just think it's really cool that they've continued on with this like fun-filled day in celebration.
Now, you're going to laugh at me.
Okay.
I saw this picture of Wild Wing, which is their mascot. And in quick glance, I honestly thought it was Donald Duck wearing a ski mask.
Oh.
And then I realized, no, that's not Donald Duck. Because, well, and here is Donald Duck on Anaheim Ducks Day. So
that is not Donald
but yeah,
Duck.
It seemed like for fans of hockey and the Anaheim Ducks, it looked like a great
I think it's fun
thing for everybody. And oh wow, look at this! Is this a hat or is this a hockey? What is this?
I'm not sure what that is, but
yeah,
it's one of the merchandise. Yep, but it looks like the mascot Ducks mask is what Tag was talking about. But yeah, very very cool. Well, the Orange County Register has some good reporting this week about the downtime on the hottest attraction at the resort, that has gone up in 2022. Rise of the Resistance, the headliner attraction for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, rose from 80 minutes of downtime a day in 2021 to 122 minutes a day in 2022. Thrill Data Metrics provided the data to the register. This made me sad.
It did make me sad. You actually had a story that I'm sure you're going to talk about in a minute about what could be causing that. But I did notice, when it first opened, it had a bunch of downtime. It's a new attraction. It's going to have downtime, like working out the bugs, getting everybody trained and used to things. And then, of course, because it is so popular and so many people are enjoying it every single day, I feel like it's definitely something that just, breaks down. It's really high tech. It's won tons of awards from different themed entertainment companies and stuff that rate all of these things. So, when you have such a complex attraction, and we've talked about this on the show before, if you haven't ridden it, it's kind of like 3 attractions in one. So you'd think about like downtime of just one attraction that's just one attraction. But if you have an attraction that's basically 3 attractions in one, you might have higher downtime just because it's so complex. But you had a story from somebody that was a little more personal.
Yeah, so one of our weekly tiers was in the park this past weekend. He was there on Saturday, and I don't remember the total of time this poor person waited in line to then finally get on the attraction. It was like 2.5 hours or something. It was a crazy long time. When they got into the queue, I want to say the posted wait time was like somewhere around an hour, and then it jumped to 95 minutes, but they actually were there for like 2.5 hours. And the ride actually broke down while they were in line. So that's part of why they were in line for so long. But when they finally got on the attraction, they said when they got into the room with the bridge, for those of you that have been there, so that's the first Kylo animatronic that you see. The weekly tier felt like they got wet, like something dripped on them. And so they kind of started looking around like, what the heck was that? Well, they noticed there was a puddle on the floor. So the roof, again, it was raining a lot on Saturday, for those of you that don't know. It was raining quite a bit in Anaheim. So the roof must have been leaking. Otherwise, I don't know what else would have been getting dripped on them at that point. But yeah, right. There was a puddle on the ground. So I'm sure that's not helping things. And that could have been part of the reason why the attraction had gone down while they were waiting in line. But I mean, that was just, yeah.
Well, and that's what, we've talked to cast members that have worked attractions before, and one of the things is that there's sensors on some of the floors.
Yeah.
So if somebody steps out or something falls out, that they can stop it. Well, if there's a drip, that's going to cause a problem.
That's going to cause
because
issues.
It's so complex. It's a really long like reset phase to get everything working properly and stuff again. Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot going on there, and we'll have to see if they can get a little bit more reliable. But man, 122 minutes a day, that's what, 2 hours, a little over 2 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't it still close at like 8 p.m. or something like that? Yeah. So
yeah.
Well, we talked about the path between Adventureland and New Orleans Square becoming a dead end while they work on the Indiana Jones and Adventureland Treehouse. Well, the path is being worked on not only to replace the entrance to the treehouse, but also to regrade the walkway as well. This is one of the areas of the park that is difficult to navigate with a wheelchair or stroller because of the angle.
It's interesting because it is like when you think about the park and the layout of the park, there's not really... What other hills can you really
Not a lot of change in elevation,
yeah,
right?
Like everything's pretty gradual except for this one spot, or this one area. So I like that they're taking this time and that they're doing this work and utilizing this already, just kind of expanding upon the construction that's already happening to kind of get this taken care of a little bit. It also makes me interested because, right, this is also part of the top of the path that they're working on is where the entrance to the treehouse had been.
Mm-hmm.
They removed, as we all know, that stump a year ago now at this point, about a year ago. And Tag always made fun of me because when we went over there, it drove me nuts because you could see exactly the footprint and like the patch of cement of where where the fresh stuff was versus the other stuff.
Right.
And it drove me bonkers. So I feel less annoyed at that patch of cement now because now I understand. It was just a temporary
Yeah, but that doesn't explain the rest of New Orleans Square that they okay.
We're not gonna go down that rabbit hole. But at least that one area is getting replaced. So perhaps that means that the other areas that have cement blending or cement theming or lack thereof that have been bothering me when they were doing some of this work, maybe those are also temporary patches. I'm just going to tell myself that.
I was trying to think about I mean, they're not going to do anything about it, but I was trying to think if there was any way that they could modify this area to be better for guest flow, because my first thought was, is there some way they could take away the bridge and kind of make that a wider walkway? But that doesn't really work either. So I feel like there's just it's just a tough situation there. But my hope is that it looks great when it comes back, and hopefully, soon, because I'm excited for that. That's also, by the way, the reason that Fantasmic has been canceled and is not running, because in fact, I think we talked about this. We either talked about this on the podcast or we had a conversation, because we're going to be on the bonus episode.
We're going to be on the new episode of Did You Know Diz, which, if you are Backside of Water podcast listeners, that may sound familiar, because Alex from the Backside of Water also does the Did You Know Diz podcast. And so he invited us on, and we actually chatted. Well, the topic was supposed to be the Adventureland treehouse. But
we talked about everything.
Past, present, and future. But we stayed mostly in Adventureland. We did a little bit of chat about New Orleans Square, but we were at least on that side of the park.
He said, it'll be 45 minutes. And we talked for like almost 2 hours.
An hour and a half, 2 hours, yeah.
So be on the lookout for that. Yeah, be on the lookout for that. But I think maybe that's where we talked about it, where how hard it would be to everybody filtering out of that one exit, because other than going all the way back around through Galaxy's Edge, the only way to connect the west side of the park with the main part of the park, with this being closed, is that little pinch point between the Riverbell Terrace and Rivers of America.
Yeah.
So not a lot.
And I mean, even with this pathway to New Orleans Square being open, it's still a pinch. So I can't imagine what that would be like without that path. Weekly tiers wanting to board the monorail at the downtown Disney station may think it's closed with the construction walls up all around it, but it is still open. The area in front of the station is getting some paving work done. To access the station, there is an entrance next to the Pin Traders booth.
Yeah, so I mean, if I would have walked, I would have thought that it was closed too.
It
looks very closed, but still open.
It is still open, so we just kind of wanted to let it, kind of more of an FYI news story, just to let y'all know that you can still get on the monorail. It isn't just a dead end and you have to get on and off at the parks.
As Teresa mentioned a little bit earlier about the leaking roof potentially at Rise of the Resistance, the wild weather in California over the last few days has provided some opportunities to see some things hidden behind scrims at the resort. A lot of times when there's high winds and stuff, they'll roll them back. Well, the one that we were most interested in was the fire damage to the New Orleans Square train station. Well, both ends of the building show signs of fire damage. Railroad cast members reported that some equipment in the building that operates the station lights were damaged, so they're using radios at the moment to make sure that they know where the trains are. This means that only 2 trains instead of the normal 3 can run at the same time, so there might be a little bit of a delay if you're waiting for a train.
So the thing that stood out the most to me on this is we got this information from Mice Chat and these photos from Mice Chat. So link, of course, is in our show notes if you'd like to go check these out for yourself. But the thing that they pointed out in the first photo that I don't know if I was paying too close of attention on other things when I saw other photos, but you can kind of see how much or how big this fire was if you look at the trees just behind this part of the station. The tree that's directly in the center here, it's mostly brown and dead leaves, as compared to the left and right side, which you can see where the green is, and that it's brown dead leaves up all the way to the top of that center tree. So that kind of gives you an idea of it wasn't, they say a small fire, but that seems a little bigger than a small fire to me. And especially with the photos that they showed of damage along the sides that are on the roof, it almost looks like the shingles are melting off.
I will say that I'm a little surprised, because I would have thought that with the damage we're seeing, that more of the roof would have been damaged, but really you can't tell except for on the sides. And because of all the fire damage that looks like in the tree there from the heat, I'm wondering if it was more in the back side of the building. Is there more of this that goes further back that we aren't seeing?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, but it does seem like a good chunk of the building. It seems like they'll have to redo parts of it, but they won't. I assume they don't have to tear it down.
I'd be curious to see what the back. I mean, we won't, but I'd be curious to know and see what the backside of this building is, because it seems to me like the vast majority of the damage is the backside of that building, and because it seems to wrap around on both sides of the roof, I feel like the entire backside of that building was damaged. I'm just surprised at the tree, though. That tree behind it. That really kind of gives you a better idea of like, woo. Because like I said, every report that we had seen up to this one was that, everyone just kept calling it, it was a quote unquote small fire. So I just took it at that. Oh, it was a small fire. Well, I would consider this to be larger than a small fire. To me, a small fire is like, I don't know, like a waste bin sized or something.
Sure. I'm looking at the satellite view of the train station here, and it does look like the building is just kind of rectangular shaped, and it looks like there's just some area behind there. So, yeah, it looks like the back. It must have been the backside that kind of took that tree. But I just find it interesting to see kind of what happened because, of course, like with anything, right, when you hear about something, you want to kind of know more about it. And so that was kind of difficult to figure out.
It is really amazing that they were able to get it contained and put out, and so it
Walls
didn't spread.
up.
Well, and just the spread, because it's fire. It can spread very quickly. You have the haunted mansions right there. You have the actual the true train station on the other side, and the fact that they were able to keep it contained to just this one separate side, separate side station building is really really quite amazing.
Yeah. So. For some reason, I was thinking, because you end up going through Splash Mountain a little bit later in that tunnel, I forgot all about the poor haunted mansion. Because I was thinking, I was like, well, maybe they don't need to worry about Tiana's Bayou Adventure if it would have just caught fire.
No.
But that would have taken the mansion with it. No, oh my goodness, that would have been something.
Absolutely not.
DLWeekly announces the boarding of the Trivia Express, non-stop star speeder service to the moon of Endor. All passengers, please prepare for immediate boarding.
Hello and welcome to Trivia Land, folks. I am excited for the joy that we are going to have this week. I hope you two are feeling that as well.
I mean, always cautiously optimistic, I suppose.
I don't know. I was talking to Tag about this. He's been doing better than I have been doing so far this year. So you're cautiously optimistic. I'm just cautious.
Well, you're coming off a really good week. So let's see how we continue it. So my question for you is, what attraction features fun-loving Frizzante roadsters that were modeled after 1950s Italian rear-engine microcars?
Oh,
Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters.
Got that one quick. Number 2. True or false? Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters is the first at Disneyland Resort to use a trackless ride system.
True.
True.
Wow, sound confident there.
Very
Tag.
confident, Tag.
Well, I feel like there's something that I'm just easily forgetting, but I think it's true because Rise was the first, right? Like the second, right? Because
at Disneyland,
yeah.
All right. Question number 3. Our inspiration for focusing on this attraction from listener Kate A. How many different songs can you hear on the standard version of Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters? And this is not including any holiday overlays.
Ooh.
7.
I was going to say 6. So 6 and 7.
I don't know. You think of the time that we were sitting there waiting for them to go through all the stuff.
They weren't going through all the songs when we were sitting there for the reset.
Yeah.
But
I like the, my favorite is the, A Mambo
Italiano.
Yeah.
Teresa, do you have a favorite that you want to sing to?
I don't know what my favorite is. It's one of those, as soon as my favorite is not necessarily the song, it's the dance.
Ah.
So I don't remember which one's my favorite because, yeah.
Well, that's because the dance changes every time.
It does. The dance changes, but each song has their own, choreography.
They got their own feel.
I don't remember which one it is.
All right, our last question this week. Each of Luigi's family members have their own names and unique looks, except for twin sisters Rosa and Gina, who spot a coral color. How can you tell the two of them apart?
They have a what? A coral color?
They're coral color cars.
And how can you tell the two of them apart?
I'm going to say tail lights.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Tail lights. Now, are they identical twins?
Pretty much.
Why you got that grin on your face? For those of you listening, Teresa has this maniacal grin on her face.
The first thing I could think of was their eyes.
So you think it's their eyes?
Different eye colors. Yeah, like one's got blue eyes, one has brown eyes kind of thing. I'm going to go with eyes.
Gut instinct. We'll see if it pays off. How about you listeners at home? Do you know Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters pretty well? Do you think TNT did well? Well, we'll find out together after our discussion.
Well, this week we continue our fun discussion with Skipper Freddy. So I want to, you said so many things, and we're going to have you back on to talk about your time on all of the other attractions. So I think I decided we'll just focus on Adventureland stuff. So before we get to the Jungle Cruise, of course, can you tell us about what it was like to be working on the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse?
Oh, yeah.
and if you're excited for the new
yeah,
one.
and what your thoughts are.
Definitely excited about the new one. Gosh,
I'm not excited about the name. I don't know why.
Yeah.
The new thing is these very, very long names, but that's okay.
Yeah, right. The Adventureland tree, inspired by the Swiss Family Treehouse, written by Robert Louis Stevenson. Yeah. When he had
by Walt Disney, inspired for part 2.
Yeah.
Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, you're going to get a history lesson.
No, that's perfect.
So when I worked there, it was really a simple part of your rotation. You stood at the bottom. When you got to the position, you bumped the next person, and that person walked up the tree to go see if there was any code V's. You know what that is? Mm-hmm. See if there's any code V's. See if there's any code T's, which is teenagers doing something stupid or dangerous for themselves or one another. And then you just kind of walk through it and you come back down and you move on to your next. That person would move on to the next position. And then you were there for 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how long it was. And you stood there right by this entryway. And the goal there was, we don't want you to ruin Walt Disney's original Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. Mm-hmm. Please don't take food and drink up there. Gotcha. And so we were there standing by a trash can to say, sorry, can't take that milkshake up there. Throw it away. Or Sunkissed, I presume, was where Bengal Barbecue is now. So that was like you would take a big foamy orange drink. Nope, can't take that up there. So then you're basically the trash monitor. And when you got bumped, you walked to the tree and you came back down. Now, sometimes if you were there at a party like a grad night or something, you went up there more regularly. You go a couple times to make sure there's not a certain smoky smell going along in the experience, or that young lovers had lost themselves in the tree somewhere. And so you're just paying attention to that. When the update came with Tarzan, mm-hmm. there was a lot of controversy around that. People were upset about that, right? As we are. This new modern age where we I sound like old man. This new modern age where we get really upset about people taking away our attraction. Yeah. Like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride was taken away and in Walt Disney World and replaced with Winnie the Pooh. The outrage at the beginning of the internet. People were so furious. And that's how we are. Well, that Tarzan thing happened prior to that, so that it wasn't allowed to be as much outrage, or at least, not on the internet, not the way that we get outraged now, where we're showing pictures and we're saying this is better and we've got history to back us up. Right. But when it happened, people were clearly like, Tarzan, well, I guess it's all right. I like a new attraction. Static figures, that's kind of weird. Okay. Did it kill the attraction? No. People still went up into it, excuse me. But here's the interesting thing.
You got rid of all the kinetic energy, though.
Oh, yeah. They got rid of all the kinetic energy. But here's the thing that happened. I'm going to do a big name drop here. Just let me drop this name on you. Mr. Tony Baxter and I had a conversation one day, and we were talking about the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. And what everybody else misses is that the bulldozers were there to take out the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. That was the goal. Eisner was down with getting rid of that sorry old thing. Let's put in another shop. This needs to be a shop. Let's bulldoze this thing. And Tony and his team said, let's advance something a little bit better here. Let's do what needed to happen all along. We need a screen. All the places have an entry into their lands, but here you have this sort of unnatural jump from the jungle into New Orleans. We need a screen there so that when you look, you see a jungle coming from New Orleans. We need this block off. And so from Tony's perspective, he saved Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse from the bulldozers. And when you take it from that perspective, you go, okay, so it was Tarzan. And as much as I love Phil Collins, it's not, the Swiss Capoca.
Swiss Capoca, yeah.
And so there's this desire and to not destroy it, but he saved it, and on a very, very, very low budget. So it's those kinds of things that are really exciting. I meant to say this, though. I'm sorry. My favorite thing to do at Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, Swiss Kapoka, the trash cans at Disneyland. If you ever have a meal on top of one,
Yes.
if you tap them, they have this amazing snare drum sound because the way the doors, the hinges on the doors and everything sound. If you tap them, you get a pretty good sound of a snare drum. So I would sit down there, no visitors, nobody's coming by, but that Swiss Kapoka would come on, and I had this march drum beat that I would, and people would come by and be entertained by this stupid tiki room guy who's hanging out in front of the thing, and that is what killed the time or used up the time for me every time I had a shift on that.
That's awesome.
So what do I think about the new one? What do I think about the new one? I love the idea of an Adventureland tree. There's an old Christmas album, Disneyland Christmas album called Christmas at Disneyland, maybe. And in it, they talk about the Tomorrowland tree. Like they want to do a Christmas tree, but it's about rockets and it's from the 70s. It's really an awful album. It really is, but I love it. And so when they said Adventureland tree, if they got rid of everything else, that meant something to me. That sounds like, yeah, it represents all of Adventureland, and almost like Mother Oak Tree. Is it Mother Oak Tree in Pocahontas? Tree.
Grandmother
Willow. Almost, or like the tree in Avatar. Like the power of Adventureland is coming from that tree. Like that's where man makes his home among the animals. Like that gets me excited a little bit. I would love to see Society of Explorers and Adventurers really worked in there. I don't want it to become an IP that becomes a whole movie franchise, but it's gonna.
You said something that you must have been listening to our podcast, because Teresa's got on about that she doesn't like that they've gotten rid of the staircase entrance with the bridge because it created that block.
Yeah.
I am very sad about that.
I will say the rope bridge is pretty cool, though. Was pretty cool.
It created a great screen. It's not. It added to the congestion. Boy, oh boy, that is a congested land. And I'm so glad when they moved during the Star. What would they call it?
Project Stardust.
Project Stardust.
Yeah.
When they got rid of, really it was the stroller. Where strollers go to die is Adventureland. And as sad as I am that Adventure Outpost shop went away, it's being better served as a stroller parking, because that was a hard land to get through.
Yeah, it is nice because they're tucked now. There's a space for them. Otherwise, you're right. They just kind of.
The only thing I can think about, and people are probably going to come for me when I say this, the only thing I can think that would make it any better than it is now is if they were to do hanging lanterns like across and get rid of those islands that have the lights coming off of them. Right. Because there's enough overgrowth that you probably could put some lanterns and stuff to provide that light and get rid of those. I mean, I know people sit there and stuff, and I know it adds to the land.
I've definitely eaten Bengal barbecue off of the edge of those planters.
Yeah, right.
If you're trying to make room, like that would be a way to do it or whatever. It's just kind of an odd.
Well,
That's
they
what
took
I love
out
about it.
They shrunk those things. They were so big. If you look back at old photos, those planters were huge, and they got smaller and smaller.
Sure, kind of like the planters in New Orleans Square now are shrinking.
I know. It's hard. If people want to have a place that they call their own, which is their Disneyland, which is their, it's the common people's yacht club, is to have an annual pass at Disney. Yeah. This is our place to go. We're part of a club. If you want to have that, then you have to allow more people, because it is. Oh yeah. It needs that, or you got to raise the prices, and that's not tasty to anybody. But it's it's going to be tougher over the years to get our Disneyland fix. I don't have principles when it comes to this, because I want it for me. I want it in my way, but it's kind of like, if we all want it to work, we got to kind of reel back I deserve to be at Disneyland anytime I want to be, and it needs to be at 35% of capacity.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
No, it's not.
Now, I mean, I've said this a lot of the show too. To me, that just means that Disney needs to build more domestic theme parks.
Yeah.
Like elsewhere in the country. Like I'd be happy to go to something if they built it in the Midwest and like there's all these. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. Before we got off the treehouse, I did want to ask, because you do work for a company that builds experiences and things like this. And I'm not saying you know anything. I'm just saying, what is your thought on this? So my thought about the treehouse and what happened there.
Oh, you mean why it's been down for so long?
Well, that's part of it, but it closed really unexpectedly. And my theory is that they found like structural issues, like some like there was structural like steel issues, and that because when you look at photos, it looks like they've like taken pieces of the bark off and they've done things, and then they've like put the bark on. And so my thought is they found a crack or something.
Yeah.
And they closed it, and then they surveyed it, and they were like, well, what would it take to get rid of it versus what would it take to fix it? And what can we do with that? And my guess is that they were like, okay, well, we'll keep it. I'm sure that people like Kim Irvine. I'm sure Kim Irvine was like, listen, if you go to get rid of this tree,
we're going to
have angry pitchfork people out there. So why don't we just repair it and do something cool with it? So I'm glad that they're bringing back the kinetic energy stuff. But does that seem...
Yeah, I really don't know any information about it.
Yeah,
but,
no, I didn't think you did, but I was just curious.
But speculation, if it really did happen, like you said, that it was sort of abrupt, and I must have missed that news cycle, but it could make sense, because think about that bridge.
Yeah.
What was that bridge doing? It's attention. And this 1960s structure, which is made out of cement and steel, is being pulled on. They can adjust that. This is totally speculation. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But there's an engineering problem with anchoring something to one thing. And if they say, okay, it might not be safe, OSHA has changed everything within the parks, the things that we had come to expect for a long, long time, and now have to be, you got to run through, Big Thunder Mountain. We didn't used to have little swinging gates. You just got in the train. You were expected to stay behind the yellow line.
Yeah.
That was it. But it's all of those things that do come together into some of those decisions that get made. And when those decisions need to be made, it is about, what are we going to save? What are we going to lose? Are we ready to turn this into something else? It's valuable real estate. It's a valuable little piece of acreage that thing takes up. What are we going to do if we tear it down? What are the consequences if we do something else with it? How could we salvage this? And taking the success of a Jungle Cruise movie, taking the success of a potential Society of Explorers and Adventurers and all that stuff, and the feelings that people have for mid-century stuff, and a potential Swiss Family Robinson movie. Well, let's do it. Let's do it tastefully. Let's bring back some of the things that people love, which they've been doing more and more and more of. And I love that.
People mover.
Yes, bring back the people mover. But it's that kind of thing. And that's the people mover is a great example for your question, or a good reason for your question. What went wrong with the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse structure that made them have to make that change? It's the same thing that, hey, rocket rods are fun, kind of, but they're also wrecking the structure that they live on. So they had to go that way. That's a good question. I can't wait to find out where that turns out.
Everything comes out at some point. Like somebody who works there now,
somehow
20 years from now will write a book about it or something.
Yeah, right. Well, and this is the other thing. This is probably more likely, and probably where we just, miss the point, is that is a terrible bottleneck of human beings. Mm-hmm. And so having that tree in the way was great for a time, but it's really having the bridge support there. It had to go. And it's probably pretty obvious, and it will be obvious to us as we kind of feel how wide and easy it is to get through there in times later.
Yeah.
Very true. So, moment we've all been waiting for. Let's take a spin on the world famous Jungle Cruise. This is such a fun attraction. It is, I would say it's both of our husbands' top, if not favorite attractions. They are both huge fans.
Work it.
Honestly, we could go to the park with them and they could go round and around on. There's just something about it. And like we said, I don't know if it's that human connection, if it's the Mark Davis, scenes that are still there. I'm even loving the updates that they just did. I think it fits in with the storyline and ties into the storyline well. And I just love that there's Annette and Maggie with her magnified. Like, I love that the new characters even have names already and all that stuff. Yeah. So there's just something about it. So tell us about working on the Jungle Cruise and some of the great things and maybe some of the not so great things.
Yeah. So I'll start today and go backwards. I have never taken Jungle Cruise off of my resume. It was the first job out of high school.
That's awesome.
It still sits there at the bottom. I worked for Dick Clark Productions for a year. That one is about to get bumped. If I have to go into another job search, that one's going to get bumped. Like, I can't believe I'd be getting rid of Dick Clark, but Jungle Cruise is going nowhere because an interview where people go, wait a minute, you worked at the Jungle Cruise? Like, they don't care about the other stuff. They just know, wait, maybe I was on your boat. Maybe I rowed your boat. Yeah, I probably have pictures with you. That's what they say. And you're like, this is it's really something that has triggered, it triggers a happiness, a joy, a memory in all of these people that really strikes, just like, this is the real thing. This is what meant something to me as a kid. And there you are standing right in front of me and you want to work for me? Yes. And then my partner, Mel, will always drop in a meeting. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you know this, Freddy used to be a Jungle Cruise skipper. And then they go, oh, really? And then that takes the pressure off of him. Like, now all of a sudden everybody's like friends. One time after I worked at Disneyland, I worked at the Disney store. I guess it was between a couple things. I worked at the Disney store in Portland, and there were two Japanese girls in the store. And I looked over and I was like stocking the pile of plush.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked over, and this is back when the Disney store, we wore cardigans, blue, like Letterman cardigans. Ridiculous. Anyway, I looked over, and these girls are pointing at me and laughing and giggling. And, the sort of shy Japanese girl thing that you think about, this was happening right in front of me. And then they got the courage up. One of them got courage up and walked up to me, and they're trying to to speak to me in broken English, and they pull out their wallet and show me a picture of me and them at Disneyland in my Jungle Cruise skipper outfit.
Before you move on, I was going to ask this question. What does it feel like to know that you're like in people's photos?
It's like, weird. I've been looking. I go onto YouTube. I don't know. I'm into myself. I don't know. That would be sad if I was. But I've looked on YouTube. I would really love to find. I type in Jungle Cruise Disneyland 1989.
Yeah.
And I've looked because it would be so precious. It's kind of like the John Lasseter search for a photo of John Lasseter on the Jungle Cruise at some point. Because he was a Jungle Cruise skipper, but never got any photos. So but I do have some photos. I'll share them with you guys as you asked. But yeah, so that's today. That's me today. Is it still influences all of that stuff? But working on it, it is this little bit of celebrity. So this is interesting. The Jungle Cruise was up until 93. I'm going to get that wrong. There's books about this, but up until about 93, 94, maybe 92, there were no girls on the Jungle Cruise. There were no female skippers. And so it was a fraternity. It was guys. And it was sort of this, we're fake sailors. We're fake. We're not really in a jungle, but you sort of adopted this machismo and bravado of that. And we knew ourselves to be better than the Star Tours guys in their tights. and we knew that they're, look, Fantasyland people. And we were diverse. You definitely were diverse on the male spectrum, right? Not everybody's machismo, not everybody's, I was so skinny. When you see the picture, I was so skinny. But I acted like I was the man with the big,
like The Rock.
Yeah, I imagine. Well, yeah, when he came out and played that movie, it was me he was playing. right?
Makes sense.
But we really had this sense of this is a guy's only thing. And then what would happen at that time is there were the reflection of that in the culture there was that also girls were interested in, oh, well, he's a Jungle Cruise skipper. So there's this, or maybe I just dreamed it. But the point is that there was this like set aside group of people. And there was a time there when I heard, oh, they brought girls into the jungle, right? I'm saying this with quotes. And there was sort of this outrage, like, wait a minute, you're ruining the thing that was the thing. And then there was this sexism to that would say girls aren't funny, right? Or even worse, they would say that when a girl does sarcasm, it doesn't come across as Skipper sarcasm. It comes across as being witchy. Yeah. And that's not fair. Right. Yeah. It wasn't fair then. And actually, one of I wish I could remember her name. It's on the tip of my tongue and we're actually friends. But there was this one gal who worked there who was a lead and she did all these kinds of stuff. And she went to bat. She went to fight for women with costumes. Like, imagine this. You in the summer, if you were wearing a ride that had you wearing a skirt. Right. Imagine the freedom of wearing a skirt in a Southern California summer, and you still have to wear nylons all the way up. And they're broiling out there. Like it wasn't even. And she fought for that, and she won that they didn't have to do that. And she fought for Jungle Cruise girls, and she won. And it isn't the jungle better? Because of it.
One of my best skippers I had was a female.
One of our favorite skippers is female. And it just adds to the diversity of jokes that can be told, too. Because there are things that the women will, things that the women will say joke-wise that if,
one of my favorites.
Like Indiana Jones. He's looking for lost treasure in there, but I'm right here.
I'm right here. Or the one where he's like, I'm going to scare off the hippos.
Yes.
What is she
I
saying?
love you.
I love you. Yeah.
I want to move in. Yeah.
No, that's tremendous. Okay. So that portion of the story aside, I would really get into the character. I believed I was driving people. When I spun that wheel that does nothing, I would spin it as though it did. Cause you get to know the track, you get to know the rail. And you can feel the tip and
Spoiler
when
alert.
it's going to you're going to know when to tip this way and when to spin it. You can do it without looking, and it feels like you really did it because you know it when it happens. We didn't have Indiana Jones when I was there, so you really sense you didn't see any more people when you left the dock and you said say goodbye to the people on the dock because you'll never see them again. That was the last time you saw people for 8 minutes, and it was really diving in. One of the things I loved so much about the Jungle Cruise, especially at that spot going into the Cambodian temple, Cambodian shrines made by ancient Cambodian Shriners. It's such a 60s joke. Like everybody's dad was in Shriners. And then they would say that joke on today, be like, Shriners, I have no idea what that joke is. But when you would see the mist, like the fake mist coming through and the sun was hitting that mist, you could feel like you were really out there, especially if I take a deadhead, which is a deadhead is when there's no people on the boat. You just have to, in order to cycle boats around and you would take a deadhead. Imagine what it's like to drive a Jungle Cruise boat by yourself through the jungle and sort of fake it. Like you can put it on half speed and lay down on the bench. I think my story is sort of like around naps, but that wasn't the point. But
you were the worst cast member ever that we've ever heard of, but you have heard of me.
But that sense of like really getting into the character and believing that I'm on this boat and I'm running this thing. And then you add in the fact that you've got these families, people from all over the world, and you're doing, I love that Weird Al parody on Jungle Cruise Skippers, Skipper Dan, and you get this real sense like you're doing 80 shows a day, right? You're not really doing that many, but you're doing so many, and you're doing it with such a diversity of people. You're doing it with entire tour groups from Korea. And then you're doing it with a bunch of people from LA who are just not impressed by anything. Then you're doing it with people from the Midwest who have not seen anything like this before. And every language, every type of and you're telling, you learn how to speak to those people. And so that's another reason why it stays on my resume is if at a job, somebody says, hey, can you stand up and talk right now? We need you to I'm there. And it's not that I want to be there. I just can. And it's because I learned it on that in that space.
Life skills from the jungle.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's really, one of the things I find amazing is with any job, right? And Disneyland is a great representation of this. With any job, if you do the same thing over and over, like, it's got to just be monotonous.
Yeah.
But and like the jungle cruise, you're telling jokes. Well, you're not, every time you go out, you're not going to have different, like, you're going to repeat jokes over and over. And the fact that it's like they can still deliver them in such a way that's still funny. You were talking about the wheel, and it reminded me of one of the jokes, and I only heard it once, but it will forever be seared in my mind from the Jungle Cruise. Is there's that section by where the pile of skulls used to be.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the track went to the right and then to the left a little bit.
Oh,
yeah.
And the skipper went, we're going to make an unnecessary turn to the right and another turn to the left. And I was like, I will always remember that. And every time we get to that spot, I'm like, I remember this joke. I heard it one time
someone needs to say this joke. It's so good.
Like 1995 or something, and it's still in my head.
Well, so that spot. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I'm just saying that, like, and it's true. There's no reason that like what.
Well, that spot. This is so inside baseball. So this is Magic Killer 101. So you're on a rail. Mm-hmm. There's two rails, one at the front of the boat and one at the back of the boat. That box that the skipper sort of leans against in the front is the casing for that post that goes down into the water. It's free moving, so it moves up and down as that thing's on the rail because the water lifts it up and pushes it down, lifts it up. So the post that touches to the wheel that's on the track, if the water lifts you too high, you can come off of the rail.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And so that particular section is where everybody derailed a boat. Now, I never derailed a boat. I followed the rules, but part of the rules was do not go fast into that section and then slow down. Because when you move a boat through a fat area, it brings water with it, and that'll lift you right off the boat. And so that little turn was notorious for lifting boats, especially the back end, off of the rail. And so that's where we would derail. And when you derail, that's when you send up 6 shots with your gun. You would pack it with the black. Back when I was there were black and red bullets. The red blanks were for regular hippo scaring away. The black ones were double loud, and they were for signaling to the front. So if you fired 6 shots, bam, 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 they knew somebody had derailed. We had a code. There was codes for, I think, 5. This is a bad code, by the way. 5 or 6. By the time you hear shots happening, you can't tell if you're on. Oh, am I on 3? Am I on 2?
Right.
What number am I on?
How many is that now? Yeah.
But there was I think 5 was a medical emergency. So that meant it was a signal to all the other boats. Hey, everybody move. Mm-hmm. If it's a derail, that meant, hey, just everybody stop and wait. Because you can't go any further. But that derail spot is because of that curve that you're talking about. There's other places to derail, but that was the notorious one.
Interesting. See, this is the cool stuff. Like I never like you said that pole. I'm looking at a picture of a boat right now, and I'm like, oh, that I wondered. Like I always
thought that was guests stay over there. Like this is kind of like the skipper's bubble.
Yeah, it's his bubble, skipper bubble. The other one is underneath the engine case.
Oh,
and it's
sure.
Just
that makes sense.
Another one that and then what would happen is they would position 2 boats. So one boat would back up to you. They'd unload their guests and back up to you. And then the boat behind full of guests would kind of get there, and maintenance guys would be there, and they would pull the boat to where it's supposed to be. They'd lift up that big post that's supposed to be on rail, and they'd find the rail and set it back down.
Dang.
And then off you went.
How long did that process take?
It could be really quick. It could be 15, 25. It just really depended on how quickly maintenance could get there. You know, if there's some other problem at Big Thunder or something, they're going to be focused there or whatever. But, you know, there's always somebody there maintaining something. And so it would move quick. Sometimes it was really hard to get it back on. I mean, there's a lot of shame. When you derail a boat, you're a loser.
Do they take you off skippering for a while? They're like, you need a break.
You could. It depended on how many times you did it. My buddy Lauren, the guy I came down on spring break with, he came too.
That's
and
awesome.
We both worked there. And he derailed, and he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, he was commit. And even the maintenance guy goes, when he pulled it out, they found a bunch of bamboo was jammed into it. So the bamboo sent him off. But because it was in a notorious place where you are warned and told again and again and again how to do it, how to manage this, he got written up for it. So you do get written up, and 3 strikes and you're out type of thing.
Wow.
Dang. So if a boat derails, so do the rest of the boats just chill until that one?
So it's the front of a boat has a point on it, and it's meant to go forward. And since you're on a rail, there's no turning around and going back. So you got boats full of 30 guests that have to wait. So that brings one of the greatest skipper opportunities or nightmares, which is a 20-minute wait with a boat full of guests with no new scenery to talk about and no new jokes to talk about. And so that's when you would pull out your best conversation with a boat full of guests that what, you know, some of when you're loading, there's a bunch of load spiel. There's a bunch of unload spiel. So we have a lot of those sort of corny jokes that we can use and bring to mind. Now, if you blank and you can't remember what you're supposed to say, you're like, it can be awkward. And then, of course, some people are like getting tired of waiting. Like, I paid all this money to get in this place. So you don't have to make it the entire thing a show, but it was often kind of fun. That's when you would use the jokes from the queue. Like, oh, by the way, folks, if you lost a roll of $100 bills wrapped in a red rubber band, can it raise your hand if you did? We found your rubber band. You like use those jokes. That's when you use those. Or hey, where's everybody from? Where are you from? Oh, I'm from Burbank. Oh, I'm sorry. I said Burbank. No. I said I'm sorry. You're from Burbank. That's when you bring all of that goofball stuff out, or you start interviewing people. The best thing in the world is a kid. A half shy kid who's right up front, and you can interview them and you start asking them questions, and they say the most amazing things, and it's just hilarious. And their parents think this is great because they're getting all the pictures, and you know, it can be a nightmare though if you're not an extrovert. And not all Jungle Cruise skippers are extroverts. They're
funny.
not.
It is interesting. Yeah.
You would think that they'd be the extroverts because like you're constantly talking to people and trying to be on and entertaining. And
I'll hit you with this little fact. Check this out. So we are Jungle Cruise skippers are attractions hosts. They are attractions operators. We have our own union for attraction operators. So whether you're working Star Tours or, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, you are an attractions operator. That's what you're being paid for. You are not an entertainer. So entertainment is an entirely different department, and they have their own union and what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And so entertainment, there's always been this like tension because Jungle Cruise skippers are stand-up comics on a boat, but they can't let you have that. Because if they let you have that, then you become entertainment, and they got to pay you different, and they don't want to pay you different. And so you have to stay in your lane. And that has brought about all kinds of interesting, and I'm going to tell you the greatest Jungle Cruise revenge story ever told. It's going to blow your mind. And it's between entertainment and the attractions hosts. And so attractions hosts, it's tough because what they could do, if they had an entertainment person, telling the jokes, the entertainment person, check this out, could not drive the boat. They are not there to run a motor. They're not. They can only pretend, and they can only do their entertainment. So that would mean 2 people on the boat. So they figured out a way to make Jungle Cruise skippers say stuff and operate the thing, but not be entertainers. So we were right next door to the Tahitian Terrace. And when I was there was tension between the Tahitian Terrace and the Jungle Cruise because we used the same walkway on the right outside of the Tropical Hideaway. You can see them pass by right there. That is the way that we would go behind the stage for the Tahitian Terrace, which at one point was the Aladdin's Oasis, right, with the big leopard mouth. And we used the same pathway to get to our boats as they would go to get to their dressing room. And at the time, it was a Tahitian show, like real hula dancers and fire dancers and things like that. And so we would be passing to go to our places, and they, from our perspective, were a little stuffy and believed they owned the right of way over there. But we got the boats, the most popular ride since Walt Disney, and we deserved to be using this pathway. So there were times when, and when they were doing a show, they didn't want us spieling at Trader Sam's. So that was really the big, you guys fired a shot over the bow. You told us we couldn't spiel at Trader Sam, that we had to be quiet because people could hear us while they were putting on their show. And so that led to some more tension between entertainment and the attractions, the Jungle Cruise skippers. Now, that led to all kinds of things. There were complaints. We were always getting in trouble for doing our job, right? From that perspective, you kind of see that tension. Any job has this, but we were, and they were, and they were paid big bucks and we weren't. And, so fast forward into I want to say it's mid-90s. So a friend of mine is Trevor Kelly. He, people can look him up. He does an amazing Frank Sinatra impersonation and show. And he was a Jungle Cruise skipper. And I feel bad telling his story because he should tell it. But during the Aladdin's Oasis show, they were entertainment was particularly snooty and snobby because these weren't just real Polynesian entertainers who had had history and were here on a contract to do this thing. These were Hollywood folk.
Sure.
Who were dancers and singers, and they were there to do their thing, and they notched up the snobbery. And they were real particular about the sound, so there was this real tension. Trevor did something so amazing that it lives in Jungle Cruise history, and you can look it up, find it on the internet, find this video. His last day. So last days are a big deal within the jungle. You either jump into the water or you jump onto a boat. A friend of mine leaped into the water from the Jungle Cruise boat into the hippo pool with a rubber knife that he swiped from the bazaar, rubber knife, and was sitting on top of the hippo, stabbing the hippo in front of guests.
Oh, wow.
And jumped out and, got himself. So that's good. That's good.
Like he's probably banned from Disneyland for life.
Yeah, if you did that currently, it would
be. We've had guys out there singing songs on, there's all kinds of great, amazing last day stories. And Trevor's last day story goes like this. There's more to it, so I'm not going to give away his whole thing, but he dressed up as Indiana Jones. Oh. He got a really clever Indiana Jones costume. And in the middle of that Aladdin show, where they have they had watched the show 100 times and figured out when and where these things happen, and they had the lamp, and they put the lamp inside this thing. It is not yet discovered yet that there is a lamp, so that's their main prop for this little show. All of a sudden, out of the mouth of the giant leopard, the Cave of Wonders, comes Indiana Jones. He goes over, he looks like Indiana Jones, left and right, walks over to where this kind of leaps over to where the prop is hidden and pulls it out, holds the lamp of Aladdin above his head and says, "This belongs in a museum," and turns around and runs out. Now, his coordinated effort to change clothes and walk out as a guest is a whole other story.
Oh my
But
gosh.
to us, that was the greatest ending to somebody's Disneyland career that could ever have possibly happened. And he pulled it off. And those entertainers got in trouble because it was videotaped. And their bosses were like, how come you can't improv after that? So what if you don't have a lamp? You still have a show.
Right. Yeah. The show must go on.
I feel like that's in the Aladdin show at the Hyperion. If they had something
they would have
improvised.
They would have loved it. Yeah, they would have done great with it.
They would have loved it. That's amazing. Well, now that brings me to wonder, what was your last day on the jungle like? Were you? I'm sure you didn't dress up as Indiana Jones and steal some treasure.
No, I didn't. Well, unfortunately, that is lost to history. But I didn't have a last day on the jungle, so I technically did. My last shift at Disneyland was on Big Thunder Mountain, so there's no pranking on a dangerous roller coaster.
Yeah.
And so I simply walked off the job, saying goodbye to everybody and having the zippity doodaddy in my heart and just is truly an amazing time there. So you go away from something like that as a young person, you kind of get tired of it. You kind of see something else on the horizon. Mm-hmm. And while I'm glad I moved on and went and did all these things, I'd still go back any day. If they had Old Timers Day, I would go back. And I have been invited to spiel a boat since then. It's a wonderful feeling.
Cool.
Go back and do it. But the sort of leaving of Disneyland is this rite of passage as well. It's, you have to get mad at a job to say, I don't ever want to be here, or you have to be sad about something, I got to go do something else. And so there's this melancholy, and it's that same melancholy you feel when you leave Disneyland, at 1 a.m. after fireworks and tired feet, and with sparkling lights and the music is just right. And you're going, do I have to walk out these gates? Do I really have to walk out these gates? Some people, it's just not, it's not for them. They weren't paid enough. They were treated poorly. People are people and they're not kind. And so, you leave a job with that in your heart. So it's all transitional when you do leave. But yeah, left Big Thunder Mountain. We could talk about that, I guess, on another opportunity. But yeah, it was, it's like sad and sweet, and but a good total experience.
That's awesome. I'm sad that you didn't get to do any sort of shenanigans, but I can't even I can't imagine what that would be like to work at Disneyland and like live and breathe and be a part of the magic. Because I know how hard it is to leave for a trip.
Right.
So
right.
The leaving of, being part of the magic is just a whole nother level, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's not it's not perfect. You don't leave anything that's perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So there's you grow up, you're growing out of it. Like, it wasn't, I don't think it was a year and a half later before I was married and had my first kid.
Oh, sure.
So there's this, you have to move on. So there's this, whether it's for bad reasons or good reasons or whatever, you move on from something like that. But, I just, I would hope for everybody who did it that they would look back and say, wow, I got to entertain at a place like the world's, first premier theme park that, the man himself had touched and made happen is a dream come true. And I've heard some sour talk from people, but it's not, I think, knowing how Star Tours works and knowing how these things are put together and all of that stuff is like, to me, is books and books and books just poured right into your brain. You can't get rid of them. It's really, really, really awesome.
Well, and we're the weird people, right? Like we've interviewed people, and for people who we have not worked at Disney ever, One of the things that I would like to do for sure is I would be one of those nutty people, and I've said that they should do this, but I guess not that many people are interested, I guess, is I would totally pay an arm and a leg for a backstage tour. Like if they offered a backstage tour, walk around in the guts of pirates, just take you through the just to be, it's just one of those weird things, right? It's because it's kind of like the taboo thing, right? It's like because they want to hide it so much, you want to see it even that much more. And everybody we've talked to about this that's worked is like, it smells like, like the in Disney World, they've got the tunnels. They're like, it smells like garbage. Like, you don't want to go down there. It's not glamorous at all. Backstage, you don't want to go back there. And so when they opened the corridors behind Main Street, they have that one on really busy nights that they'll do that goes along the Jungle Cruise there. Yeah. And I went back there and it smelled like garbage. There's a garbage compactor back there. It was kind of gross. Was it magical? Not in the least. No. Was I happy that I got to go back there? Yeah. Was it kind of disappointing? A little bit. But it's still cool to do that,
Well, check this out. This is the thing about the world we live in. There's nothing perfect. And I'm going to tell you something that's so disappointing, but also thrilling. Like, realize that you have a higher position. You as a guest of Disneyland have a higher position than Walt Disney himself. Here's how. Walt Disney never enjoyed Disneyland like you did. He always saw what wasn't right. Mm-hmm. He always saw what he had dreamed up, and now he's walking down the street and it's like, gee whiz, that doesn't look good. That doesn't look good. Oh, the timing is off, right? Sure, he was molding and shaping and doing things at the time, but I talked to so many themed entertainment builders, and they cannot ride their own ride that they created without seeing the light that's in the wrong place, without seeing the this and that, and they never eat the magic like we get to eat the magic. And so there's this special privilege of being a guest. I'm the same way as you. I want to see what's behind it, and then having those little secrets, like mentioning the Jose pole, right? Finding Jose's house is so special. We love to tell those secrets, and we love to have the secrets. And we love to go, how's that water fountain work? I know how that water fountain works, right? We love that part. But if we were responsible for it, it would bug us when it isn't working right. And so there's a specialness to being a guest that it's almost like we hunger for what, if we really got it, it would wreck it.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah. I don't know how an airplane stays up in the air. I really don't. I understand there's lift and there's equal and opposite reactions. I'm glad somebody else does. I don't need to know. Keep me up there as long as you're going to use the magic that keeps me up there.
I know what you mean, though, because I tell this story to people. So one of my first jobs when I was younger is I worked for a movie theater, and I did projection. Yeah. So when I go to a theater now, and if I see the picture not lined up right, or it's a little out of focus or any of that, because I was trained to look for that, I can't not see it. And it drives me crazy. But then like Teresa or James or whoever, they don't notice it at all. I'm like, how did that not bother you? They're like, what are you even talking about? And so I get what you're saying. Yeah. That if you see something like that, then it's like you're always going to notice it, and and you can't enjoy it fully.
You can't enjoy it to the extreme way that we do. When you see the fireworks go up, it's amazing. But if you know what the master plan is, and you know where everything is located, and you know X, Y, and Z, then you're not as impressed.
Yeah,
there's just like this. There's something about it that's not, and that's okay. There's people for that. And it's not that we shouldn't look for it and try to be fascinated by it, because that's what's kind of, getting us even more excited about the magic is what we don't know. It's like looking for hidden Mickeys. Once you found all the hidden Mickeys, you start making up hidden Mickeys, and then they become ridiculous and they're dumb. And you're like, yes, those are 3 round rocks. That is, sometimes you just have 3 round rocks.
Well, and sometimes people like will point them out. I'm like, that's not even 3 round things nearly like kind of close together.
It's like seeing faces in the clouds. It's like your brain makes up things.
Like, what? I don't see that at all. But yeah, then there's other ones that are like, nope, that's clearly it. The other thing too, though, with Walt was, I've read that he was always just looking for like, okay, that's in the past now. What's the next thing? He didn't ever.
That's a different. Yeah.
Yep. He didn't ever take the time to kind of like sit in the glow of it and just enjoy it and then move on, because he was very forward thinker.
On to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting to think about that stuff, because Terry Hardin explained this to us a little bit, that, a lot of people get passionate about Disneyland specifically because it was, there's only so many things there that Walt has touched. And if you take them away, you can't get them back, kind of a thing. And I understand that. Mm-hmm. But also, if you try to stay in the vein of Walt, like if he would have lived longer, like a lot of the stuff that we think would be sacrilege to get rid of would be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tiki room would probably be gone. Like, just all these different things would have been gone. And so it's just amazing that, like, we get stuck in these things of like, how Mr. Lincoln or the tiki room are two examples, and for me, like the Autopia, but like, we say, like, when they talked about getting rid of Abe Lincoln at one time back in the day, it was like pitchforks and like, all this stuff. And so it's like, it's really tough to be an Imagineer, because you want to create these great new things that people are going to become classics, but they're not really given an opportunity sometimes to do that. But then you get the people who are like, but don't get rid of my favorite thing, you know?
For it.
It's a fine line to have to try and to balance there.
Yeah.
Disneyland is a wonder in urban design. And that is, the amount of entertainment packed in per square foot, entertainment, not just, all that is so much more than anything at Walt Disney World, anywhere else on the planet. They talk about the pricing. There's one way they talk about the pricing is like a movie is 2 hours, and you spend 2 hours in let's say it's Avatar, you watch it in 3D. So how much is that? $20?
Sure.
Something like that.
So 3 hours for $20. Those are entertainment per minute dollars. And at Disneyland, the amount of entertainment you could access in that 16-hour period that you're there is far more valuable than what you're actually paying for. Is pretty spectacular. You're getting away with better value, depending on how high they raise the prices, but they packed so much in there, and still holding on to some of the things that are sacred to many of us. Here's the funny thing that I have to fret about. I'm not a huge Galaxy's Edge fan. I really wanted to be. It didn't land the way I was promised. The way they promised it. It didn't land exactly like it was promised. And so there's a little bit of disappointment there. But check this out. A kid born today or a kid born 4 years ago is never going to see a Disneyland without Galaxy's Edge. And that means that it's going to be core memory for that kid. That meaning and that what Disneyland is to that person includes Galaxy's Edge.
Yep.
And to ever think that they would take that away would be a travesty, right, to them. And the same thing is like Roger Rabbit. There was a time when you put Roger Rabbit in Toontown, and there was a kid who was born that day who would never know a Disneyland without Roger Rabbit, and would think that is what makes Disneyland. And that's so special about the place, is that there's nothing that they add that won't soon become I think about Disneyland Paris. The French did not want Disneyland Paris until 10 years later, after the first kids who had grown up with or 15-year-olds, they had money of their own. They started going there and spending it. And now they are taking their kids to Disneyland Paris. They could never dream of a play. There's no Paris without a Disneyland Paris, so that's pretty spectacular. That's how we, build memories and create amazing places that change people and get them excited to see the next thing.
You're absolutely right. We talk about this all the time, that I grew up with just Disneyland. I'm only 10 years, I think, difference than you. I was born in 81. And I went to Disneyland in 89 for 88, 89, somewhere in there.
I think I was your Jungle Cruise skipper.
Yeah, you probably.
And I remember, I remember the parking lot and everything, right? And so we had this thing for before the holidays or something. We had a special episode. We didn't have a discussion topic or an interview or something. And producer James just created like a quiz kind of thing. And it was like, what's your like hot take? And I was like, for me, if DCA like disappeared, it wouldn't bother me. And like Teresa was like, you take that back and people are going to come with you with pitchforks. And a lot of people were like,
it has
oh my
a
gosh.
place, yeah.
But it was never there when I was a kid. And I would be totally fine just going to Disneyland. Like, I don't need California Adventure. Now, do I like a lot of stuff in California Adventure? Sure. But if I had to only pick one of those parks to go to for the rest of my life, it would definitely be Disneyland.
Yeah.
Not that DCA is not great, but like you said, I just don't have like those core young memories there. And my experience of it is totally different. One of the memories that I have about DCA was for the 50th anniversary of Disneyland. It was the only park open on May 4th of 2005. And it was not what it is now. And I remember thinking, we've been in here for 4 hours and we've done everything. And I'm so bored and there's no Disneyland to go to. And so I think for me, that's kind of tainted a little, but that's just because of my experience with it.
Right.
But we have listeners who are very excited and love DCA.
And it's the opposite. They would prefer to be in DCA than Disneyland. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Crazy to me, but I get it.
With me being 10 years ahead of you, right? I'm starting to realize and starting to see they're going to stop making things that are for me. Yes. And I gotta be okay with that. You know, it's funny. The Smurfs movie came out about the time that people who watched Smurfs on Saturday morning as a kid had kids the age that they were when they had the Smurfs. And same thing with the Sonic, same thing with Transformers, right? They're making those things for those kids so that for my kids, so that I will take my kids to those things and have that same nostalgia. But pretty soon that's going to be further away and they're not going to start making things for me anymore. They're going to stop playing Sweet Child of Mine on the elevator music at the mall for me. So that I feel like this is my generation, right? At this mall, they're going to start playing Hannah Montana or something. I don't know what it is, whatever that next thing is. And it's going to start to sound like elevator music to that next generation. Mm-hmm. So I got to come to grips with the fact they're going to take away things that I think are sacred and kind of be ready, regardless of the fact that I don't want to be ready. I kind of got to be ready for them to swipe out some of those core memories.
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, there'll still be memories though.
That's
like
true.
The Disneyland Hotel. That's something I never got to experience. And honestly, doing the research and like seeing photos and all that, I'm just like, I'm almost mad about that.
Yeah,
but I can't be mad about that.
Same thing with the People Mover. You're mad about the People
I'm
Mover.
upset that I didn't get to experience the People Mover or the Skyway buckets. And
the People Mover in Disney World is not the same.
Not the same.
People go, we'll just go to Disney World. I'm like, it's not the same.
Yep.
So, Freddie, I want to be respectful of your time since we've been recording. I just looked over for 2 hours now. So, so real quick, I think let's wrap up. We clearly have like a million more questions and things to talk about.
I would love to talk to you about Big Thunder Mountain, but that's going to be another time.
We'll do a Frontierland one. So we talked about this way back at the beginning, that you currently are the executive producer over at Storyland Studios. So can you kind of tell us, yes, you've kept the Jungle Cruise on your resume. So how did your time in the jungle kind of morph into your current role today?
Yeah, that's a funny question. I'm not the executive producer. I'm one of a dozen executive producers at Storyland Studios, and that means you guide a project for a client from beginning to the end, just making sure that their vision and their dreams end up being what happens at the other end of the project. And I came to Storyland Studios because I worked for a place called Children's Hunger Fund. I was in charity for 12 years, nonprofit, and Children's Hunger Fund's mission involved sending food to hungry villages and people and places around the world. And so in that storytelling, like we needed donors to understand what we do. And when you have a donor that really understands what you do, they're willing to give more, they're willing to invest in the charity even further. And so part of that was taking people on trips to the different places where our mission was in full view. So that's Uganda, Guatemala, Nepal. So you would take this group of people who have some extra means, like what we would call this as a major donor. This is used across all charities. That's somebody who could give a gift of $10,000 or more. That's a special group of people who have $10,000 that they could invest in your charity. And so we would take those types of folks, invite them to come with us to go visit this area of the world and see what their work is doing. So they would see the food delivered. They would meet the families and the kids who are receiving all this stuff. So it's really cool, but it's very elite. It's very specific because you can't bring a busload of people in there. You're going to ruin, like, if you bring a ton of, you might have heard of like Tom's Shoes. I'm not down in Tom's Shoes or anything, but when you bring a truckload of shoes into an area, you shut down every shoemaker who had a job, right? And had a store and all that stuff. And so it's not I love what they do, but it's like you bring more people into an area, you can ruin it. And so our idea was like, can we give people the experience of seeing these real places and have a real emotional experience of, wow, this is real. This is what's real. But by not taking them there. And so we thought, look, we've got Disney background. We live in LA. Let's make this thing happen. Let's do a real set of a place where we've been and try and do our best, as flawed as it'll be, telling these stories inside of our warehouse, so that when people come to our warehouse to volunteer, to fill up the boxes of food that are going to go to these places, they can see what it's like inside a home in the garbage dumps in Guatemala. And so we started on a journey to try and do that. And when I got one of the most amazing, I got to go twice to Walt Disney Imagineering for lunch, and a friend inside, and you would know his name if I said it, a friend inside there said, hey, I will order pizza. And I will invite all of Imagineering. If they want to come have a free slice of pizza, all they have to do is sit with you through lunch and help you come up with ideas for this thing.
Yeah.
And so two lunch hours I got with Imagineers inside their black box at 1401 Flower in Glendale. It's like this amazing, like, dream come true. And they sparked how we could go to the next level. It's just barely sparked how we could do it. There's no way you can access that. Well, then we started saying, well, how do we get this level of show, but not access the Imagineers? And we met Mel McGowan and Peter McGowan, and Mel, having been with the Disney company for a decade, said, look, we can build this. We can make it Disney level. And it happened. Long story short, it happened. We created a place that you walk in. This is amazing. I'm not going to give away the big secret. So in case you ever want to go, it's in the San Fernando Valley in California, in a town called Silmar. It's called Poverty Encounter. When you get there, I'm not going to tell you how, but you're transported into sort of this, the opening scene of Nightmare Before Christmas, you're in this portal space where there's these doors on these different things. And there's four doors that are portals into these places.
Wow.
And so you walk into the garbage dumps of Guatemala, Zone 3, Guatemala City, where children and families live in the garbage dump so that they can find materials, old shoes, sewing machines, thrown away clothes, and then fix them up and sell them so that they can continue to live in the garbage dump.
Wow.
Next door to that is a set of the Port-au-Prince, Haiti, right after the earthquake in 2010, and the children and families who had to pull themselves up. They were already in poverty, and how do we deal with that sort of poverty? Nepal, there's this amazing thing on the earth that there are brickyards where children as young as 6 are carrying bricks on their heads to build the cities out there in Asia. And you're just like, wow. And we built those places for people to walk around and see what poverty's like. And now junior high kids of parents who could never afford a $10,000 donation can come on a Wednesday, Saturday, a field trip, bring their whole group, bring their church group, bring their school group, and come and walk through Poverty Encounter. And that it's not just to make you sad. It's not just to break your heart. You, at the end, you walk out into the warehouse, you get to fill food boxes going to one of these settings where these kids are going to. So it won us an award, and we used Storyland Studios to do it. And having done that, right, I come from the Jungle Cruise where I'm in this realistic, like, what's in the jungle? Well, now, like, let's tell the story of the people who are in these real settings. And now I'm able to do that. And so it wasn't too hard for me to move on from my charity. I put in my tenure, 12 years, but now I get to help other people tell their stories in a similar way. I just met today with a group who sends airplanes into ravaged areas of the world, and they send their pilots to help move things in and around. They want to create an interesting visitor experience like that. And so I get to do those kinds of things, but I also get to do theme parks. I'm in charge of 2.5 full theme parks here in America that are being worked on, and we've got them all over the world. So it's pretty neat. Get to play not the Walt Disney role. The Walt Disney role is the client. I get to play the sort of, I guess it's the Dick Nunis role.
You guys are kind of Imagineers for hire for people who don't have Imagineers. Yeah, boy, it's so hard for me not to tell these stories because there's a reason for that. And we are. I mean, everybody who's there's a lot of people on our team who have worked for Imagineering or worked for Universal. We bring a lot of experience to the table. And I was never an Imagineer. I was just a skipper. But, the storytelling and the operations and all of that has to come to bear when you're putting together something amazing like that.
That's incredible. That's really amazing.
I pulled up the Poverty Encounter just on YouTube. I'll link it in our show notes for this episode too. I think I saw part of what you were saying in the little thing, so I skipped past it because I was like, I don't want to see that. It is really amazing.
Yeah.
It is really amazing.
It's really, really remarkable. It should be much bigger than it is, but it's growing its base. It's inexpensive. It's like going to a museum.
That's cool though to have really, that kind of real experience and then do good afterwards, right? You can go in and pack food. Like, how amazing.
That's incredible.
Like I said earlier, there's so much we could talk to you about, but we should wrap up because I think we are at least at 2 episodes here. So let me get you the last question, and I promise in the future, if you're up for it, we will definitely have you back. We probably should start going back through some of our people that we've told that we want to have back on and try to get them on, because we just don't want to have people on like too soon. But I think we've had a good rotate. We should be able to rotate through now. But with folks like yourselves, you just have so many stories. And the podcast would be like 10 hours long.
I know, it's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
I love it, and our listeners love it, and we're so thankful that you're here to talk about this stuff. But we want to be respectful, and little bits at a time. We don't want to, the whole experience.
My wife is actually cooking dinner because she just came back from karate, so I smell the dinner.
Perfect timing then. So, last question that we ask everybody. Now, you've already worked at Disneyland, but if you could work at Disneyland again, what would you do? Sky's the limit. Could be any job. Could be even something you make up.
Yeah. It's funny that I mentioned Walt walking through the park and not, getting the same satisfaction. But there is something to that, like bringing your dream to reality and saying and seeing that. So there's something about it that's like, if I could make up my own job, I don't know. Do I be Walt Disney? Do I be his Jiminy Cricket on his shoulder?
Oh,
excuse me. Again, but or be the little man at Disneyland, right? You live there. You're just making sure they're not doing it. You got a little bit of magic that you're throwing this way and that. I think that's what I'd like to do. But shoot, having a shift where you're just waving the baton and watching the Main Street Electrical Parade go by. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I just need to get better shoes.
Yeah, not those big clunking
Big
Thunder Mountain boots. I can't, now I'm going to have to pay attention to cast members' shoes the next time I'm there. That sounds awful.
So for anybody who's listening, but maybe wants to follow your journey beyond the podcast, where can people follow you online or hear you? I know,
or what other podcasts do you have?
plug whatever you have.
Okay, so on Instagram, I'm Skipper Freddy. I've had a little bit of a need with my career. I've had a little bit of need to pull back from the Instagram a little bit.
Sure.
But there's a lot of fun content in there. If you kind of go back through, COVID was kind of a wild time. A lot of us started some of our fun stuff. So you'll find, links to my YouTube channel to watch my Jungle Cruise quarantine video from home. It's a lot of really cool stuff there. I write at freddymartin.net, a lot of Disney stuff, a lot of interviews. I interview Bob Gurr there. I interviewed the very first Tom Sawyer, Tom Nabby, who worked on Tom Sawyer Island catching fish, and Walt Disney hired him personally. So really a cool interview there. But also, fun stuff like discovering the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, the very first installation of those guys at Disneyland, and then, Disneyland from space, like secrets at the park that you don't know about, but you have to see them from the sky to understand them. And then, so freddymartin.net is where you can read me. You can listen to me and my podcast partner, Mel McGowan, who's also my boss, at Themed Attraction podcast. We interview all kinds of industry legends, focus on people who do build these amazing places that we like. Had Tom Morris on there, Tony Baxter, Jason Sorrell, just a ton of great interviews with the people who built these places. And it's an industry. It's like inside baseball. We're talking about the struggles that we had building these places. It's real popular with people who are in the industry or want to try and get into the industry. And then I'm a cast member on Backside of Water, which is a podcast that delves into the rich history of the Disney parks and specifically the attractions. I just wrote a massive episode about Space Mountain, which we just released. We're notorious for going off on tangents, and
we're guilty too.
We understand.
But we also throw in some skits, and so that's what a part of what people love about us is. You'll find our Christmas episode or our Society of Explorers and Adventurers adventures on there. So Backside of Water, Themed Attraction, Skipper Freddy on Instagram, and freddymartin.net for articles that I've written. It's not all Disney stuff, but some good meaningful stuff that I think I think matters.
We'll definitely have links to all of those in our show notes for those of you that want to check that out.
Thank you so much. Yep. If I can just shout out my daughter Penny, she's a skipper. And she's a skipper at the Skipper Canteen in Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World.
Oh,
nice. And
second generation skipper.
I know, it's so cool.
So cool.
And I vote for her as Skipper of the Year if my vote counted. But she's an amazing person. So if people are heading to Walt Disney World, look for Skipper Penny at the Skipper Canteen and say hi from DL Weekly.
That's so cool. That is so cool. It's in your blood, apparently.
It is.
There it is.
Well, Skipper Freddy, thank you so much for all of your time this evening, and I'm sure our listeners are going to love listening to your interview and everything like that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I look forward to coming back. I'll tell the story when I come back about how I dropped a kid in the water.
Oh yeah, that's right. We never got to that.
That's a tease.
We never got to that.
Looks like we're coming in for a landing, gang. But please stay listening until trivia comes to a stop, and then you can walk to the nearest exit. Thanks for listening to the 8th wonder of the world, DLWeekly.
All right, welcome back to Trivia Land. I'm jealous. I feel like a skipper on the Jungle Cruise would be one of the best places to work in the park. So I appreciate all of Freddy's stories. But we're not talking about the Jungle Cruise. We're far, far away from that. You two ready to find out how you did?
I'm feeling all right.
I mean, we got the first question right because it was all themed to Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters. So unless you randomly have one that's totally not like the others.
That's also a good idea for a future episode.
Oh my goodness.
Stop talking. You're giving him too many ideas.
All right, that first question. What attraction features fun-loving Frizzante Roadsters, which were modeled after 1950s Italian rear-engine microcars? Indeed, Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters. Woo-hoo! On the board right away. Very unique to the Disneyland experience, unlike Luigi himself.
I'll tell you, I was quite lost until you said Italian cars. I'm like, I know where we're going with this now.
All right. Question 2. True or false? Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters is the first at Disneyland Resort to use a trackless ride system. You both said true. And that's another point for both of you.
Woohoo! Good thing you jumped on that bandwagon. What? You had a very questioning true.
Well, it was a question of is that what I remember? Is that accurate? I'm not sure.
It's fun because looking at the trackless rides across all the Disney parks, at least at some point, they all had an attraction that used the system that's unique to them. So the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror in Disney World, Pooh's Honey Hunt and the Aquatopia in Tokyo, Mystic Manor in Hong Kong, and Ratatouille in Paris.
I always forget that the Tower of Terror is trackless for a portion in Hollywood Studios.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many neat features, and they just keep on building on it now, so it gets me excited. Third question from Kate A. How many different songs can you hear in the standard version on Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters, not including either the holiday overlays? You went with 6 and 7 and overshot the mark. It's 5.
Really?
Rollickin' Night and Day, Mambo Italiano, the Tarantella e Campari, and Funiculi Funicula.
I think it's that last one. That's my favorite one. That Funiculi Funicula.
That's a great one. I found it fun reading about this because the LA Times theme park writer, Brady McDonald, wrote when he was doing the test rides for this attraction that every car weaved, spun, and jerked along a predetermined path that felt as random as a bowl full of spaghetti. Such an Italian answer to an Italian attraction, right?
Yes.
And then our last question. Each of Luigi's family members have their own names and unique looks, except for twin sisters Rosa and Gina, who sport a coral color. How can you tell them apart? I gave you this to give you a chance to trigger your memory from last week's question about this. They are identical except for their eye colors.
Good job, Teresa.
First winning week for Teresa this year.
Yes, it is.
On the board. What a good week overall. So listeners, you have ideas for questions? You have ideas for attractions that maybe we should try to stump them with? We love your ideas. Send us an email. It's trivia@dlweekly.net.
Well, we will be back next week with more Disneyland news and information.
Until then, go out and enjoy the parks.
Please remain seated until the podcast comes to a complete stop and the doors have opened. Then collect your belongings, watch your head, and step carefully from the episode. On behalf of all of our crew, thanks for traveling with us, and we hope you have a happy and memorable visit here at DL Weekly.